back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we're going to be talking about some books. Specifically the 10 books that I would like to get to by the end of the year. Now, of course, my TBR is like way longer than 10 books. It's giant at this point, but these books I would love to prioritize by the end of the year. Some of them I've been wanting to get to for a really long time. Some of them are newer releases. And this list includes so many different genres. A lot of fantasy, because I feel like I'm in like my fantasy era right now, but also some thrillers, some literary fiction, that kind of thing. I didn't include any of the series that I've already started, because that would have made this list so long. So there are none of the Veronica Speedwell books on here. I started that series. I am so excited to dive more into it, but I didn't include it on here, as well as the A Court of Thorn and Roses series. I didn't include that on here, and y'all know I am dying to get to the rest of that. So these are just kind of standalone books or new series that I am excited to get to. So let's just go ahead and dive into the list. These are in no particular order because I am equally as stoked to get to all of them. But the first book on this list is Battle Royale. I have been told to read this by my husband so many times. He read this a couple of years back and was like, you are going to love it. You really need to get to it. But she's thick, okay? And I've been, up until recently, a little intimidated to get into bigger books like this, and also where it's translated, I was afraid that it was gonna go a little bit over my head, but more recently I've been thinking about it. It's been staring at me on our bookshelf, and I'm like, you know what? I probably would love this because it's what inspired the Hunger Games and things like Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter. Like, this is the OG of those kind of style of books. So I know that I'm probably going to love it. But for some reason, I've just been so nervous to get to it. But we are saying goodbye to those nerves and putting this on the list because it's just time. It's time I get to it. It's time I read it. So the first one on this list is Battle Royale. And like I said, this is what's inspired things like the Hunger Games and Goblet of Fire. So it's kind of like a tournament, a survival story. All these kids are put into the situation where they quite literally have to fight for their lives. So I know that it's going to be intense. It's probably going to be a little bit sad, and it's going to be action-packed, and I am so excited to get to it. The next book on this list is actually a series that I have been super excited to get to, and that is Six of Crows. I know I'm a little bit behind. I've been dying to get to this one and Shadow and Bone pretty equally, but I'm just like that much more excited about Six of Crows because there's a heist. There's a crew of kind of misfits put together trying to save the world, and if they don't kill each other first, they could end up rich, and I'm excited about that. That sounds like something that I would be absolutely down for. I love crime. I love high stakes. I love when there's a group of misfits who have to try to work together. I love the idea of a heist. I'm here for all of it. And it's a short series. I think there's only 2 books so far. So I know that I could get to both of them by the end of the year, and I am beyond stoked to dive into them. The next book I actually heard about pretty recently from Lexi over at Alexandra Rosalind's channel. She was talking about this book, and I was like, that sounds so up my alley, and so what I should be looking forward to reading by the end of the year. And it's called A Lesson in Vengeance. This is a young adult dark academia with queer representation. All of the things that we love to see. I am so excited about this one. This one follows a girl named Felicity who had taken some time off of school after her girlfriend had passed away, and now she's coming back, and there's this like story about the school being haunted and something about a coven happening, and then there's this new girl who's giving her a hard time. Like, all of the things that we are here for sounds like it is involved in this story, and I am so excited for this one. I'm going to say that a million times in this video, but truly I've been dying to get into some dark academia because I'm so looking forward to fall, and I feel like that is the perfect time to dive into those vibes. So you bet your butt this October or November that book is going to be on my TBR, and I'm so looking forward to it. Next is another fantasy that I have been dying to get to. I saw this on Book of the Month a while ago, like when it first popped up, and I thought it was going to be like a Greek retelling of sorts by the cover, and I was like, I don't know if that's quite up my alley. I haven't really dove too much into the whole Greek retelling genre, so I was like, I don't know, and I kind of ignored it. But then I started hearing more and more about this book, and I was like, that's not Greek retelling at all. And it actually sounds like something I would be super interested in. And it's Piranesi. I'm not really sure which way we're supposed to pronounce it. I believe it's Piranesi. Anyways, this book is a fantasy, and it follows Piranesi, and he lives in a kind of a wacky house. It's just one of those houses, almost like a fun house, where like you turn and things change, or it just keeps going, or doors, lead to different things, or lead to each other. Just a all-around weird house. And that's really all you know about it, and you're like, okay, that sounds like it could be interesting, but what's more to it? And to tell you the truth, I don't really know. I've just heard that you start reading this and you're not really sure what's going on, and then it hits you what's happening, and it's like mind-blowing. And I am here for a mind-blowing experience. So I don't really know a ton going into it, but sometimes that's okay. And you know what? Sometimes less is more. And I've heard from a bunch of people that this is one of their favorite fantasies. So I am going to dive into this very soon. And I can't wait for the twist. I just need to know what the twist is. And that's really why I'm excited to read it. The fifth book on this list I have heard is so many people's new favorite book of the year, and I have not read it yet. I've wanted to. It just hasn't happened yet, but it is going to happen very soon, and that is Notes on an Execution. I heard this was marketed as a thriller at first, but the more people talk about it, it kind of just sounds more like a suspenseful, gripping kind of story. This book follows the story of a serial killer who is on death row, and it's told from the perspective of females in his life. So it's told from his mother's point of view, his sister-in-law's point of view, and the detective who is on his case. So it's told from their point of view, telling his story, and he's on death row. I believe he has like 12 hours left to live. So I believe there is also his perspective as well, but it just sounds like such an interesting kind of gripping read. It sounds like it's been raising a ton of conversation around the death penalty and that kind of thing, which is very interesting. Also, I love the idea of telling the serial killer's story from that perspective. It's just an interesting twist on something that you don't usually see, so I love it. I'm so excited to dive into this one. I've heard it's incredible. It sounds like this book is going to be extremely thought-provoking, which just makes me want to read it that much more. And this next one is actually something I need your help with. So it's more of an author that I would like to read from, and that is V.E. Schwabb. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. 5 out of 5 stars, one of my favorite books of all time, and I've been dying to read more from V.E. Schwabb, but I don't necessarily know where to start or what are some of the most favorite books I know that there is Vicious, there's a Darker Shade of Magic series, so I would love to know what your favorite is from the Schwabb. Did you prefer Vicious more, a Darker Shade of Magic, or one of the other titles? Let me know so I know which one to pick up next, but I would like to read more from V.E. Schwabb, so that's why I put it on the list, figuring you guys could help me out here and let me know where I should turn to next. I am in desperate need of a redemption after The Haunting of Hill House, which is why this next book is on the list. I'm hoping it's going to be that for me, and that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This is about a haunted house, and a group of writers who actually write horror novels get invited to stay in the house on Halloween night, and some things happen, and I'm hoping that is going to be everything that I wanted Haunting of Hill House to be, but wasn't. We will see. I don't know. I've heard amazing things about this book, and I need some spooky vibes around October time, and I've been dying to get to this one, so it is on the list. If you have read it, let me know. Is it going to redeem The Haunting of Hill House? Not that it was like horrible, it just was so boring, and it never amounted to anything. So I'm hoping that this book just like is the next level and gives me that spooky, creepy vibes that I want in a haunted house, and like some shit goes down. That's what I'm hoping for out of Kill Creek. I might have too high of expectations, but regardless, I'm still super excited to get to it, and that's why it is on this list. And speaking of spooky vibes, the next book, well, not necessarily spooky, but in terms of like horror and that genre, is a Stephen King that I've been wanting to get to, and this is I mean, they're all kind of old classics at this point, but I really want to read Misery. I feel like that book is going to be the Stephen King that I love. I could be wrong, I could have too high expectations, but I feel like that is in my wheelhouse of books that I would actually love from him. Some of his other stuff just doesn't interest me, or is just not necessarily me. I've read a few Stephen Kings already, and they've been okay for me, but I think that Misery is going to be the one. Like I said, I could be extremely disappointed afterwards, but I feel like some crazy female vibes is exactly what I want out of a Stephen King novel, and I'm hoping that this one's going to deliver. I know I'm so behind the wheelhouse, but there's so many Stephen Kings, like how does one have time? So that is the one that is like top priority for me, and one that I hope to get to by the end of the year. And the last two books on this list are actually from the same author, but two totally different vibes. The first one is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This book is a fantasy novella. I believe it is a young adult as well, and it's part of the Wayward Children series, and I have been so excited to get to this series. I have heard incredible things. I feel like it's right up my alley because I loved House in the Cerulean Sea, and it has that kind of school for magical children vibes to it. And this one is about a student who goes to a magical land and then comes back, and this school, I believe, is for kids who have been to places like, you know, think of like Narnia and Alice in Wonderland, like places like that, and then they're brought back and they just kind of feel like lost and like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I've been to this magical place and like whatever. So this home is kind of, or this school is kind of like a home for those kinds of kids, and their main character, Nancy, I believe her name is, goes to one of these magical realms, then gets bounced back, and kind of everything's shifted for her. Everything is just different, and then some dark things start happening. I believe maybe someone passes away or something like that, and she's left to figure out what's going on and kind of protect this home, and it just sounds like everything that I want in a fantasy. And this is actually I think I said this already, but maybe I didn't. It's a novella, so it's going to be super short, a quick read. I'm just so excited to dive into it, and if I love it, hopefully more of the series. And then the last book on this list is also from Shannon Maguire, and it's called Middlegame. And this is a scientific fantasy, kind of. I know, the synopsis is a little bit confusing, which makes me a little bit nervous going into it, but I've heard incredible things about this book, and I feel like I'm a little bit drawn to one of the characters, so I feel like I just need to get to it, and that I'll probably end up loving it, and I just need to get over my nerves. So Middlegame is about two twins named Roger and Dodger. And one of them is gifted in like language and arts and stuff like that. And the other one is gifted in numbers, which is something I totally relate to. I am a math nerd. I love math. I know, weird. But so this twin, I can't remember which one is which. I believe it's Dodger, but could be totally wrong. Could have that the opposite. Anyways, is gifted in numbers and see things in numbers and that kind of thing. And these two were actually created by this guy named Reed. And in the synopsis, it's like, he's not quite a father. He's not a god. Kind of what is he kind of thing, and he's raising these two twins to kind of have like the highest of power, and it just sounds so interesting and something that's going to be thought-provoking. And just from what I've heard, people have loved this. I have heard it's a little bit of a slow burn, like you have to build up to it, but once you get into it, it's extremely good, and I'm just excited about it. And those are the 10 books that I am hoping to get to by the end of the year. I would love for you in the comments to leave 3 to 5 books that you are excited to get to by the end of the year, as well as what your favorite book has been so far this year. That way we can give each other ideas and encourage each other. I also will have my Goodreads linked in the description in case you want to follow me on there and see what my thoughts are as I go along and as I get into this list. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not already. Turn on the bell so you never miss a video. I do mindful living content on Tuesdays and the reading focused content on Saturdays. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!
With you and I, the future is bright.